pursuing a master's degree in architecture under the guidance of PhD Professor Pedro Marques de Abreu at the Faculty of Architecture in Lisbon. And we are developing the theme, what we know about architecture in our mental health.
Architecture has a huge impact on our lives, and more specifically in our mental health. People spend more than 90% of their lives inside architectural spaces. Architecture not only protects human beings from the exterior threats that the world has to offer, but also protects their minds, or at least that's what we hope for. But do we really know what architecture can do to our minds, to our mental health? Over the years, mental health has been sidelined and gone to the extreme of putting the mentally ill in institutions that look like prisons. Over time, and with the evolution of mankind, mental well-being has been considered one of the greatest treasures that a person can have. Because of that, and with the evolution of science and technology, new disciplines have shown interest in the mental health, one of them being architecture. Therefore, this presentation aims to assess the relationship between architecture and mental health, and how architecture can help us and our mental well-being by cross-passing the positives and negatives aspects of architecture on our minds, on our mental health. Nature and space. The natural environment is positively correlated to the person's welfare, longevity, reduction of cardiovascular diseases. It enhances recovery, decreases anxiety and depression, reduces symptoms of mood disorders, diminishes fear and anger. On the other hand, urban spaces have a high rate of mental disorders compared to the green areas, and the blink rates and cognitive load grows exponentially. All these cases imply an urge to introduce in urban spaces small green areas such as gardens, trees, natural paths. The introduction of nature in urban environments positively impacts restoration within escape and fascination, creating pleasure. Beyond the green environments, we can also consider bodies of water that are able to transmit feelings of tranquility and health, welfare, mental health, and a better response from the immune system. Additionally, hospitalized people with a room overlooking a natural landscape have less pain, call nurse less, and go home earlier. Nonetheless, if the sight from the window reveals to the observer an aggressive landscape such as a cliff, it will produce stressful feelings. Another important aspect for hospitals or for any type of architectural environment are therapeutical gardens. These gardens strengthen memory, help in perceiving the passage of time, and offer the sensation of less enclosure. Due to the feeling of fascination and being away formed by these gardens, they are suitable to help mental health diseases as in treatments for anxiety and depression. Shadow and light. Light has an impact on metabolic system and circadian rhythms, and therefore it influences our sleep, our state of activity, hormone secretion, cell function, and genetic expression. Natural light stimulates brain's cognitive activity, lessens depression and stress, improves sleeps, and helps lower the pain. Artificial light can reduce depression, develop sleep quality, moderate the sensation of pain, and falls. On the other hand, when usage of artificial light is in the wrong way, it may end up disturbing the human being's circadian rhythms. We know that using light with a component of blue inhibits the sleep hormone, producing specifically more melatonin, which can cause insomnia or delay sleep rhythms. In the long run, in addition to occurrence of insomnias, it will also develop mood changes that can lead to depression, lack of concentration, decreased stress, and impaired immune system. Light also has an influence on the way we look at buildings. When a building is illuminated by a front light, its impact will be practically none. The side light accentuates the shadow and volume, creating a great plastic effect. Backlighting enhances shapes, thus favoriting buildings that meet this light. In order to create this effect of light and shadow without turning places uninviting, it is possible to use small details as bristlets, walls, openings, and others. Materials. There are materials that repel and others that attract. Despite of this, the memory that people have of certain materials can also influence the desire of either touch it or not. Certain materials can also have positive and negative aspects on people. For example, through the several studies, it was found that wood reduces heart rate, and stress response, lower blood pressure, oxyhemoglobin saturation, and skin condensate resonance without people noticing it. Interior, exterior, and its relation. It is known that our brain is more interested in external environment than interior. Human beings feel safer in open space where they control all the variables. In order to achieve this interior-exterior connection in a smooth way, should be taken into account the following strategies: creation of entrance and porches to form a transitory channel between the two realities, avoidance of round shapes such vaults and arches, as they intensify the feeling of hollow spaces and the interior, conception of patios, interior gardens, and balconies, so the building reinforces the feeling of connection between the exterior and the interior. An example of this interior-exterior connection is wide-span windows overlooking nature used in classrooms. These windows enhance learning. Sound. Over the time, the sound produced by architecture has been increasingly neglected, which creates similar spaces and non-real meaning in terms of sound. As a result, the lack of concerning regarding the spaces, acoustics, leads to an overall inappropriate materials usage. For example, when it comes to the use of marble in spaces due to the reflective characteristics and strong reverberation, increases the echo. However, high reverberation applies to the areas forming a dramatic and monumental place. Another example is the fact that a floor with decent sound absorbing seems more comfortable, and a place where voices and movements do not create echo despite looking smaller. Another important aspect is the noise produced by the outside environment, more specifically unwanted sounds. Whereas constant exposure to an unwanted noise can raise blood pressure and reduces neural development in adolescence. Shapes. Rooms that are too enclosed increase vulnerability and stress. It is correlated to information given directly to the amygdala, which is related to a fear processing, thus making us wanted to leave the enclosed pressure where we find ourselves. As a result, if the individual is chronically exposed to this type of spaces, it can have long-term effects. Semi-fixed spaces, on the other hand, gives us the sensation of belonging and allow us to form the space personalization. This creating of semi-fixed space can be achieved through movable wall, suspended ceilings, adjustable lighting, and furniture. It's also necessary to pay attention to the type of planning existing on the buildings. Simple planning helps memorization and provides the people the ability to find themselves within it. If it is something too complex and confusing, it can create a feeling of being lost. Therefore, it is possible to detect increasing stress levels, specifically regarding hospitals or workspaces. High ceilings enhance creativity and imagination, having the effect of restoration, and while lower ceilings suggest the feeling of confinement, therefore improves concentration. A moderate ceiling height is preferred over something excessively high or extremely low. Rooms with more curved lines are prettier, pleasured, and relaxing, and convey a greater sense of security compared to the sharp and angular shapes. On the other hand, shapes with more straight lines are less appreciated. Another thing to keep in mind is when proposing a shape for a project is that people tend to prefer symmetrical shapes as contain less information than asymmetrical shapes. But neural spaces have neutral spaces and sterile designs can develop boredom and lack of activity, both physical and social. In long term, it can create anxiety disorders or impairment of cognitive functions in the case of extended and lasting exposure to the stimulus. Minor complex stimulus is considered to be less attractive than an intermediate level of stimulation, since people relate to medium level of complexity, which is judged to be more appreciative and pleasant. Privacy. The lack of social relationship is linked to the development of heart attacks, depression, heart clots, and cancer. However, the absence of private spaces has a great influence on stress levels. If we think about the concept of privacy, the first architectural aspect that comes into mind is the distance between residents. The greater the distance, the less people will socialize, and therefore the less meaningful relations will do well. On the other hand, being too close to the neighbors can also prejudicial from people. Optical levels of privacy. Many of the features used in today's architecture made it difficult to achieve the optimum level of privacy. Wide open spaces or excessive use of windows reduces the visual and acoustics privacy. Being in spaces that resembles a prison does not favor the interaction between people, both within or without institutions. If we are talking about mental health care institutions, it's also important to pay attention to these characteristics. It is also known that social interaction, especially for people with mental illness, enhances the demonstration of affection, emotional support, and reduces potentially negative distraction. As an example, frequent and pleasure meals with families or friends in long term can decrease children's depression. Colors. Color in architecture can play several roles. Organization and orientation, heighten or attenuate in a building, increases readability, control of thermal sensation and perception of volume, emphasizes or not the walls, ceilings, and floors, differentiates spaces, instigates entry or exit. Red. Diminish focus, increase the heart rate, and activates the instinct flight or fly. In excessive amounts can make the space look oppressive and smaller, strengthens the muscles and increase blood circulation. Orange, antidepressant and energetic color, so it must be used with caution in environments inhabited by anxious people. Stimulates the respiratory and immune system, gives vitality and encourages apathic people. Stimulates socialization, movement, and action. Stimulates appetite, therefore it's recommended for kitchens or dining rooms. Enhance thinking and work. Green. Relaxing and sedative color. Reduces mental fatigue and blood pressure. Reduces stress. In light tones, it is ideal for waiting rooms, offices, and relaxation rooms. In dark tones, encourage proximity and communication between people. Blue emphasizes the feeling of the cold on spaces, so it shouldn't be used in north-facing locations. In hot environments, south-facing can be good. Opens up the space. May cause sadness, fatigue, and depression. Sedative and smoothing provides thought, patience, and serenity. Purple. In excess can be depressing, relaxing, and a sedative color. Pink symbolize sensitivity and sentimentality. Yellow may cause dizziness and optical illusion when people have a long time exposure. Stimulates mental activity. Applied in small, darker environments gives the feeling of light and warmth. Brown, comfortable comfortable objects with this color look smaller. White, sterile color that represents discomfort, has a high reflectance, creating eye strain. Represents hygiene and health. Black, close and reduces spaces, and reduces the sensation of proximity of objects. Induces fatigue, sleep, and sadness. Overused can depress. Black objects tend to dominate space. Gray gives a feeling of boredom and passivity. It is important to know that intensive use of a single color can create stress due to overstimulation, and in long term exposure creates instability and even aggressive behavior. However, if we have too many colors, it can also cause overstimulation and worsen the state of some mental illness. In conclusion, architecture has a great impact on human beings' health. Although being a subject with reduced developments, there is already enough evidence that it can harm or improve the conditions of both mental and physical health. On one of the main characteristics that can be taken into concern is the overall balance. All aspects mentioned through the presentation have either good or harmful qualities. Therefore, to its complexity, it is extremely critical to unify all of them when concepting architecture. As a matter of fact, there are currently currently in a great development, which gives spaces for other authors to explore more about the studies involved.